This video serves multiple purposes. It gives us the opportunity to talk about this player, dive into what he's been doing lately, and it also gives us the opportunity to discuss the Toronto Maple Leafs. Because of course, everything revolves around the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, what I wanted to turn your attention to was the preseason game we had seen 3 days ago between the Buffalo Sabres and the Pittsburgh Penguins. This was a really interesting game because we had seen ourselves the first hat trick of the preseason scored by Buffalo's very own J.J. Peterka. And the game actually was a Buffalo 7-3 win over the Pittsburgh Penguins. But at the same time, what made this game interesting was not only did we see the first hat-trick of the preseason in J.J. Peterka, but we also saw the second, because all three Pittsburgh Penguins goals were scored by none other than Jesse Puljujarvi. Now, it's just kind of coincidental that the first two hat-tricks happened in the same game. But for Jesse Puljujarvi and his overall play, he ended up scoring 3 beautiful goals each and putting himself back on the map as a guy that should be paid attention to by fans around the league. This is a guy whose favor has fallen out in the NHL throughout the past few seasons he has spent in Edmonton and Carolina. This previous season in Pittsburgh, 2023-2024, he had 4 points in 22 games played. That stinks. Obviously, not at the same caliber as the 36-point marker he had had in 65 games with the Oilers in 2021. That season, I remember, a lot of Oilers fans were still optimistic about Puljujarvi. He was driving like some of the best 5-on-5 even strength results in the league. He was so uncharacteristically effective at being an even strength point producer. But all of that faded away in the 2022 playoffs where he stopped scoring and he stopped looking as effective. Puljujarvi, unfortunately, has never had himself the opportunity nor the numbers to back that up in any season afterwards. But heading into Pittsburgh and having this hat trick to open up 2024-2025, plus the hat trick goal where Puljujarvi sniped it from really long range. I mean, he's coming in on the rush, he's beyond the hash marks, and he fires it from here, beating the goalie. Not to mention the other goal that he had scored, the one where he kind of danced around everybody and deked over to the backhand. The Bison looked like a true force out there. And in response, you had yourselves a tweet made by Kevin Papetti, who does stuff for The Athletic. He went out there and said this: "A Timmins for Puljujarvi trade could be fun." Now this is a pretty interesting idea. Could we see some sort of a deal that sends forward Jesse Puljujarvi to the Toronto Maple Leafs? Now, let's not talk about Connor Timmins for now, the prospect that was discussed in this trade idea, and just kind of go over Puljujarvi, what his value is at the moment, and how he could potentially impact a Toronto Maple Leafs roster. Puljujarvi is at a point where, literally, if the guy does anything positive, if he does anything consistently, to the point where he's maybe getting a point every 2 games, if he gets 2 points every 3 games or whatever, if he scores a goal every 3 games, if he's able to do anything to a consistent nature in this upcoming year, it's gonna be a surprise. I mean, the guy was really unproductive the past few seasons, so really, we're just kind of hoping for any signs of life here within that hockey-playing mind of his. And of course, I don't want to make any conclusions for an 82-game season based off of one preseason game, but for Jesse Puljujarvi, if he's able to carry over the goal scoring from range, the driving to the net, the dangles in tight, and all of that throughout the 2024-2025 season at 6'4" and on a really cheap deal, which sees him only making $800,000 a year till the end of this upcoming season, Puljujarvi could be seen as an absolute bargain if he's able to produce and he's able to develop those skills. I say develop those skills. He's 26 years old. Is there still a capability of development in this guy's profile? Either way, Jesse Puljujarvi is certainly putting himself on the map after one preseason game. And if he's able to carry this over into the Toronto Maple Leafs system, I mean, there could be some really good things happening with the Leafs if that were the case. Puljujarvi, if you wanted to play him with his 2016 fellow top pick, Austin Matthews, that could be a really interesting combination of big dudes with shooting capability. If you wanted to put Puljujarvi somewhere in the middle to bottom six, have an extra tertiary goal-scoring, point-producing capability in your defensively minded lines, that also could be an option because Puljujarvi isn't really a bum defensively. That's the entire shtick that he had when he was a draft-eligible player anyway. Two-way, defensively-minded winger who was a big dude and who could produce points. There was a lot of versatility with Puljujarvi when he was draft-eligible in that same way. And of course, if you wanted to think about this from the Pittsburgh Penguins' point of view, look, let's say Puljujarvi is amazing. Let's say he's a boss. His contract is still expiring at the end of this upcoming year. And for the Pittsburgh Penguins, sure, you wanted to go out there and still remain competitive, but when you think about it, if Puljujarvi is making $800,000 now and he has a good season, what's he going to ask for in the offseason next year? Will the Pittsburgh Penguins be able to afford that? Will they lose out on him for nothing? You could say it's a lot more in their best interests to trade Puljujarvi away as a rental, get some sort of a prospect or a pick in return that will help them actually develop into the next few years. Papetti here on Twitter suggests Connor Timmins as a potential fit in this trade idea. Connor Timmins is the same age as Jesse Puljujarvi, 26 years old, right-handed defenseman, and he's coming off of a season last year where he had 10 points in 25 Toronto Maple Leafs games. He didn't get those games last year, but I guess if you wanted to say the Penguins could use a little bit more options on their right side defense, I mean, it's tough to dethrone Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson, but if you do end up finding yourselves in a situation where one day these guys are gone or retired or whatever, I don't know, maybe Timmins is the right guy. I'd think that there would have to be some sort of a pick or something attached to it too, right? Because realistically, the only reason the Pittsburgh Penguins would be making a trade like this is because Puljujarvi is going to be valuable. They're not going to trade away Puljujarvi for absolute peanuts. If he's good, and we know he could be good based off of what we had seen in the one preseason game, okay, look at me coming to conclusions after one 60-minute game there. If he is good enough, then another team is going to want him. Nobody's going to take Puljujarvi, especially a Toronto Maple Leafs team, if they're not 100% sure that he will come in with a goal-scoring, point-producing capability, a competence that allows him to be worth any sort of a price. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the idea of Jesse Puljujarvi getting traded over to the Toronto Maple Leafs? Do you think this is as crazy of an idea as it appears at first glance? Or, upon thinking about it more, do you think there's actually a method behind the madness here? I'm more of the latter. I do like this idea, mostly because Puljujarvi has been such a popular character in the NHL world the past few years, and having one of these guys playing in Toronto would certainly up the pressure on him, but I mean, the guy played in Edmonton before with some of the worst teams we had seen. That Oilers squad was so bad, always drafting first overall for a reason. It's why they got Connor McDavid. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think a Puljujarvi trade to Toronto was a good idea? I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.